look at this market as well, but they did agree that the timing's perfect. We're going to have a blockbuster IPO, and who knows? We've covered the backstory with Noon. It was a fully funded Dubai startup, and then PIF and Saudi sort of did that. So I think that's really key, Majid, because if PIF and Saudi didn't own 50% of Noon, then they, as a kingdom, they wouldn't get behind it as much as they will now. And in terms of Noon's next growth, like Mohammed AlAbbar in his quotes is talking about UAE, obviously, when he says, we will take care of our hometown, because that's where it started. But I think for everyone following this story, the fact that it's going to succeed in Saudi as well, is really key here, and it's fascinating.
And the part that you mentioned about them going for that blockbuster IPO, this Bloomberg report, clearly there were like 4 or 5 experts, and they all agreed that Talabat was very smart with their pricing. So Lulu, what we saw, they did a very high-end price, and when they opened on the market, they didn't perform really well. For 3 days, the price was flat, 2.04 dirhams every day. It didn't like go to 4 or 5 dirhams. With them, they put a very low price on their per share price. So 1.6 is the final price now, at which the shares have been bought, the 20% shares. And I think when it's again, not an investment advice, but I think when they open on December 11th, the price will go up. There is a high chance because they kept a very low price. So hopefully, let's see what they will do on the market itself, because that is when you get the reality check. Lulu got a very big reality check. They went flat. So let's see what happens with Talabat. Do you think it will go up? There is a chance.
So there's a lot of different drivers on this. Like what we know is that a lot of the employees, the C-suite, a lot of the percentage ownership in Talabat isn't in the region. So sometimes, Majid, they have lock-ins. So what causes a price to go down? 2 things: demand after listing, and also people selling. So if there's a lock-in period of 90 days, sometimes these are built in. If you're part of the shareholding, then you can't sell. So that's one driver gone. And then the other driver is demand. So I think a lot of this retail listing, usually IPOs in the US are initial public offering, and a direct listing is going to the public directly, and then you potentially get a spike. But when you go to the market first, when you do a institutional roadshow, you only take the institutional capital, right? So when you do IPO, the retail demand comes, and in this region, we're being allowed as retail investors through our banks. So you're actually getting the pop and the demand before. So people are judging all these listings indifferent to the US, and they're kind of saying, oh, are things up, things down? And they're saying that there's not liquidity in the markets. But there is liquidity, it's just done pre. And so the IPO is the retail tranche. Okay, it's only 5 or 10%, but we're seeing massively oversubscribed. And if we cut out the retail tranche, and I think that'll be the future. If we cut out the retail tranche in the IPOs, unless it's a direct listing, then post-IPO, you're going to get more of a bump because that pent-up demand hasn't had its chance to get out. And I think with what's happening with Sarwa, with Baraka, with Weo Bank, like the brokers and BHM Capital and all these different brokers, the retail tranches and apps, the Robinhood effect and all that is coming more and more into the region. And so I think we're going to have more and more different poppings and not. In terms of timing, the demand is there. The Gulf is on fire. There's a lot of private capital. They thought they could barely raise $1 billion. They got $2 billion.
2 billion,
and that's pre. So the ones who are going public, the ones who want to, who's winning here? The ones who are listing. The ones who want money. The companies are winning. It depends what they do with this money. Is the retail investor winning and the institutional investor? Not right now, and not in this wave of IPOs. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because the banker from Goldman Sachs said we need this to be a success, and define success. I think it depends on which lens you're coming from. If you're the company, it's a success because your coffers are full and you can expand AlAbbar further. And we know that some of this money is going to pay down Delivery Hero's 4 billion debt in Frankfurt or whatever, which isn't great. But Spinneys and Lulu, is that not a success? Well, it's a success for them because they've now got basically a free loan. Before they would have had to go to the private capital banks and get high interest to expand. Now they go to the public markets, they get the cash, they either line their own pockets or they reinvest into the business, depending on what they want to do. And that's what's happening here. So I think it's going to be a huge success in terms of a blockbuster and set precedent. It's the biggest tech
IPO in MENA and the
if not the world, no?
Oh, sorry, the biggest tech IPO in the world,
It's not the world this year. I think it's a 12 billion valuation. I think it's 2 billion off the. I think it's one of the biggest in the world. It's huge this year. There haven't been that many tech listings, and the fact that they choose DFM over ADX and over Nasdaq and over London, right? 4 or 5 years ago, we were talking about should Aramco list in Nasdaq, and then they did Tadawul, and now Shein will they list in London or Nasdaq? A lot of the Chinese still like New York for some reason, but what are the other big IPOs? We're waiting for ByteDance to go out. They haven't, and obviously these companies can list in China or Nasdaq, but the capital markets in this region is going to get very interesting. And the success and how the media carries the narrative and how these investment bankers talk about what is success really depends on what way you're looking at it. But
the way you explained it, now I've realized that every day when you read the news, especially the Saudi news, more than Tadawul, the smaller market, every day someone is announcing that they're going to the market. So yes, I completely agree that yes, people are listing and they will be the winners because they see that there is capital out there. They want it from the public and then they're using it to come out of Saudi Arabia, go into the region, go global. So that's a very good idea.
And there's two winners in the liquidity moment. There's so it depends on what you do with the cash. There's the companies to use that to grow, but there's also the angel investors and VCs. And for many years, the VCs weren't, they were the ones taking the risk in the region and they weren't exiting. There was one MBEP, if that's what they're called, an acronym like that. They were around 10 years before they had an exit, and their exit was Angami and Nasdaq. So I think it was their first exit. So how are they funding their fund? How are they keeping the people, the LPs who put the money in for the fund? How are they keeping them happy? So this is important because that's the base of all this. That's the base of the original thing. And whether the retail investor, the institutional, has confidence in the capital markets, I think that's going to come a bit later. And it's a lot to do with governance and with accountability and with economics of the region, which we think are good at the moment also.
So anyone going for IPO in Saudi Arabia and Dubai, there is cash out there. There is people ready to invest, retail investors, institutional investors. Everyone is ready. So if you're not going, I guess you should go right now. This is the perfect moment, what we are seeing in the market right now.
It takes a while though. You have to, again, the same banker mentioned Flowered, and Flowered were going to go public and now they moved it a year or so. I'm not sure how much I'm revealing, but basically, IPO isn't all that it's glammed up to. It will take up your team's resources for 18 months. It's like fundraising, and it can backfire, and it can the wrong timing and the wrong IPO can really mess up a company.
Just on this topic, I just realized something. Emirates and Etihad, they're also planning their IPOs. Emirates says next year. Etihad was planning end of this year.
Etihad's really close. We know about Etihad. It's really close. It's not really official stuff on Emirates, but let's see.
But I remember there was this aviation conference right around GITEX that was happening, and the Etihad CEO was like, we were planning for 2024, Q4 2024, but now we've pushed it to the first half of 2025. So that's at least confirmed that they are planning it. When they do it, let's see. It's again it will be one of the biggest IPOs in the regions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Etihad going for that. Let's talk about money more, and let's go into the property. There's a Knight Frank report that came out. It has astronomical climbing numbers for the Dubai property. Very shortly, the prices are set to climb 8% across the board, luxury market, commercial market, rental market, all the markets included. The average is that prices will go up 8% in the next year. That's the report by Knight Frank. They're one of the biggest consultants and research groups in the region, so we can trust them somehow.
Yeah, I think, do you know that post on Instagram was shared about 1,000 times? I think real estate and rent prices and property prices is just a hot topic. I think there was also a report saying the property prices in Dubai increased for 17 consecutive quarters, and it looks like this will be an 18th, and according to this report, maybe a 19th. Honestly, that's bubble territory.
Yeah.
The history of the world and the private markets and capital markets, nothing keeps going up.
Yeah.
I don't mean that, in Dubai, in the recent sort of couple of decades, we think it's boom and crash, and it's either all in or all out, and it's all this sort, and it's FOMO and it's cyclical. But look, just go on ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT for a history of the property prices in New York over the last 100 years, and you'll see the same thing. Yeah. We think that owning a plot of land in Manhattan is gold, right?
Yeah.
But actually, there's neighborhoods there that went up, went down, 60s, 70s, 80s, all different times. Obviously, the 20s crashed and stuff like that. So I think, if GDP growth in UAE is 3-4% this year, plus the same next year, Saudi's 5%, and I do think the crypto stuff has a knock-on effect.
Yeah.
It went to $104,000. Those people will cash out a little bit, drop to 95 overnight. And there's a huge event that you covered with the director yesterday. I think these people buy these properties, and the agents part of the system and the ecosystem and RERA and the Dubai Land Department. I think there's still momentum there. Usually with these things, they last longer than you think. Yeah. But it's not going to keep going up at the pace because that's just the cyclical nature of things.
There's this just one thing that keeps me hopeful in regards to property is that people are still moving into Dubai, and the demand will be there. As said by the report, that it's the demand that's causing it to rise, not the other factors.
Absolutely.
But the most important thing that I think is, even if the bubble doesn't burst, it comes crashing down, there will be some sort of correction at least. So correction-wise, it can happen. And for the last 2 years since I've been in this country, I've been hearing, the bubble will burst, but the prices are going up and up and up.
Yeah, I like this number that they gave us. What percentage did they give us?
8%.
Yeah, I like that number. I think, if it was up, what's the percentage this year? 20
this year, the number, if I would say, it was the same, because that's the safe region every report quotes, around 8 to 10%. So this year was 8 to 10%.
Yeah, I think the S&P 500 was up 30 or 40% this year, and I think it'll be about 3-4% next year, and then potentially 26 is when we have a bit of correction. But that nice acronym, the Roaring 20s, which was described in the US 100 years ago. I think the Gulf is having the Roaring 20s this decade. So believe in the Gulf, back the UAE, and keep going. But just choose your investments wisely.
Just a closing question. Do you think Dubai's property or the UAE's property will be affected by Riyadh and Jeddah and the Saudi growth? Because obviously people would want to invest in a place which is more profitable, and Saudi is growing. So will that affect somehow the UAE property prices, do you think? Is there a chance?
In terms of the product available in the market, they're not comparable right now.
Yeah.
I think Riyadh has a way to go. The supply and demand in Riyadh, there's a crunch. The housing ministry are doing the best they can. I was with ARM Holding yesterday, and they have Hive in JBC, which is a co-living space, and they're launching 5 of them in Riyadh.
Nice.
And a lot of our team in Augustus, Saudi, in our office, north of the city, Anas bin Malik, near Al Narjis area, a lot of our team who we relocate from different parts of the kingdom can't find accommodation. So the housing ministry did great, and they provided. We talked about this with Lee Shahabi in the past. They provided. What's the words? Mortgages. They provided attractive mortgages, but there's a supply and demand factor at the moment. We'll see more developments. We'll see more cities. The Ria city is being built. There's lots of big developments by Russian being built, and I just think it's going to take a while at that level in terms of the product available. But it will happen, and once it happens, I think those who had success in Dubai might look at Saudi as well. But those people will become even more wealthier and will have more means, so we'll be able to do more, and then new people will enter the market. But it's all projecting. It's just opinions. It's just views. The great thing is that we're having these conversations and that we have a lot to talk about, and we see the progress.
Yeah, and Saudi Arabia, Adam Newman, the guy from Flow, we did a story on him. He also launched a project, the housing project in Saudi Arabia. So I think that's a hint that people are moving there, preferring Saudi Arabia for their new projects because, again, available capital, the PIF is big, the government is big. So
he's a track record of failure. So,
so let's see.
Overhyping things. So I would hope that the successes come from people from who are doing it for the right reasons here. But let's see, foreign direct investment is really important as well. But governance and credibility. Imagine we had a WeWork situation here where it's valued at tens and tens of billions, and then a week before it goes public, it drops, and then it never goes public, and it's covered in debt, and the founder leaves. Like we don't need a WeWork, we don't need an Enron, we don't need people like that spoofing and making stuff up and losing the confidence in the market. We don't need that. What we need is credible, visionary people who deliver what they say. And inshallah, this region will have those homegrown stories.
Yeah, and they already have. We have a lot of success stories. Someday we'll get Rich again and we'll talk about the success stories as well. Thank you very much, Rich, for joining me today. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great weekend, everyone. If you're planning to go to Bitcoin Mina, maybe if we go there, we'll see you too. It's a good event. The owner said very nicely that it's an event for the people who love Bitcoin. Don't think about any other currency when coming to Bitcoin Mina, because Bitcoin Mina is only about Bitcoin. So that's it from us today. Thank you very much for joining us. We have the sports show, Smashi Sports Show, which happens after this at 11. So tune in for that as well. Follow Smashi Sports everywhere as well.
That's a good shout, Majid. They have 4 games on tonight. I'm going to call them out because one is the UAE FA Division 2 football, where Precision Club are playing against Al Mouj Club. We've also got volleyball. Who do we have? We have Ajman against Al Wasl. And then we have 2 basketball games, Al Wasl Club against Al Nasser and Sharjah against Shabab Al Ahli. All starting at 7 p.m. tonight on Smashi. You can get that Smashi TV app wherever you want.
Just download it on your phone and watch the matches wherever you want. Also, Smashi Sports is the proud sponsor of the national basketball team of the UAE. So yeah, you can see our jerseys there as well whenever they play. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for following us on social media. We see a lot of engagement now on our accounts. So it's all because of you. Thank you so much. We have 1.34 million followers. I love to say this. And if you're one of them, thank you so much for listening and interacting with whatever we're trying to do here, building a brand which talks about business, tech, startup success stories, everything in the MENA region. Take care. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
All the best.